hop in, make sure you add your first, last name, institution, as well as what district, and if you're certified or a member, please make sure that's in there so we can track it. Be very helpful. Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks everyone for joining today. Excited to get a little convention recap and do a little conversation and learn about different storage techniques for everybody. So just a real quick update from us at Uncommon Sports Group. For those of you who don't know, I'm Josh Meyer, run the Clean Out for a Cause program for Uncommon Sports Group. We had a great convention. Thank you for everybody that was able to stop by and celebrate our 10-year anniversary since we were managers on a mission and changed our name. It's been a awesome 10 years thanks to you guys. Just so everyone knows, we just started this past Monday the Equipment Manager book study, going through Mission Possible, Tim Tebow's book. We still have room for that. We still have some books, and you've only missed one of the 10 weeks, so you still got plenty of time to be a participant. It's 30 minutes Zoom call on Monday, so feel free to jump on that or reach out to me. I would love to have you guys join that if you'd like. Also, Clean Out for a Cause, as you guys are getting boxes in and you find that you've got stuff on the shelf that you want to get rid of or get out of there, please let me know. Would love to help out. We cover boxes and bags and shipping labels for anybody that needs it. So just feel free to reach out to me. It's real easy. Josh at uncommonsg.org. Go on our website, hit us up there too. And just kind of give praise to you guys just because of the great support. We do have one of our mission trips leaving actually in about a week, going to Israel. So thank you to everybody who helps us out. We've been able to do that for 15 students. Are going to go over there and do a great trip in Israel. So make sure real quick, I know Katie wasn't able to make the call, but wanted to go through CEUs. Make sure you do have the list on here. You get your first, last name, school org, district, certified, not certified. And then I've got a QR code at the end that you'll be able to scan and get credit for it. So everyone is aware of that. If you have any questions, feel free to email anybody on the committee. We'll be able to help you out. I know we've had a few issues with that. Big thing you can do to help with the speed of that and just make sure you're logged in to the AEMA website on your phone, probably sometime during the call. That way it's a quick scan at the end and you guys can get on with your day. So a couple of sessions coming up. We do have an inventory management session coming up in a couple of weeks. We're going to have schools and users, not vendors, talking about this, which will be really important. Talk about the importance of paper versus Excel versus using a system. So good feedback there. Don't want to just talk about one thing or the other. Try to get a good scope of everybody and how they use it, and not make it a sales pitch, which would be great. So excited for that one. And then we kind of have a break until September, get everyone through fall sports and all of that. And then we get into October with budgeting. So those are some of the upcoming sessions. I know as a group, we're still taking suggestions. So if you have suggestions or need anything talk about for these sessions, please let us know so we can get on it and get it planned for. So, and Quinn, I'm going to take it over to you. You can get us kicked off with our recap.
Yeah, thank you. First, like Josh said, for everyone attending, I know summers are tricky because everyone's on vacation or trying to escape a little bit. So, we have 67 right now, and it looks like people are still coming. So thank you all for attending. I know it's tricky over the summer, but we're really passionate about building up this program. So thank you all. Real quick, just like I said, quick convention recap before we get into storage solutions. You all got probably the email sent out by the AEMA, but just kind of recap, we had 330 equipment managers attend, which I think is pretty good. The opening keynote speaker was Amy Downs. She was a survivor of the Oklahoma City bombing, and I thought her speech was really incredible and it was really great to hear. And then later getting a chance to go to the actual memorial was really nice, and seeing all those different things about it too. So really nice that we got a chance to have a speaker like that come in and speak to the group. Phil Junis of Johns Hopkins University was our Glenn Sharp Award winner. Fred Brussel from Groton School was the Booker Kilgore Award winner. Laura Wong from Cal was the Service Award winner. And then we had Alexander Guzman, Florida, Lillian Thomas of Kansas, and Juju Luli from San Diego were presented with the Riddell AMA Scholarship Awards, as well as the Scholarship Awards of Jaden Hahn from Michigan, Heather Rowland from Notre Dame, Christian Rogowski from Michigan State, and Nolan Clause from Ohio State, and then Kaylee Schmidt from Kansas also received awards through the EMA. 60 people sat for the exam at Oklahoma City. And then I thought we had a lot of really good different speakers that really made it their own. Larry Hale had a great one from Kansas talking about his leadership. And then lastly, next year's convention is in Atlanta. It's going to be on from June 1st through the 5th. Hope to see everybody there.
Thanks, Quinn. Melly, would you like to add anything to that before we move on?
Yeah, thank you everybody for logging in the summer. Looks like a lot of us are in the office plugging away with our boxes. I'm excited. Seems like deliveries are a lot better than last year because it was a difficult year last year. Speaking about convention, I think it was overall a really great success. You've kind of outlined all the highlights of it. On a personal note, next year Atlanta, I hope to see as many people start spreading the word about Atlanta. It's going to be the 50th anniversary of the AEMA. And so you're going to look to see lots of exciting things in commemoration of that. We're going to be reopening up the brand store again. If anybody has any ideas of things that they'd like to see on there, or logos, or like a fun t-shirt, feel free to email me at any time. So if you were there and you heard my speech, I think a lot of it was talking about trying to make the lives better for the profession. And I have really, I'm very serious about that. I have spent all of my free time working on a couple of things, and I've got my first draft ready to go for the NCAA. So I've got a 4-page proposal with studies compiled in here. And I'm going to hope to have some sister organizations sign on in support. So I'm going to reach out to athletic training. I'm going to reach out to strength and conditioning as in support of our pursuit of having AEMA certification mandated across all levels at the NCAA. That's where I'm going. I also have some working groups set up with NACTA and the Big Ten Conference. With NACTA, I've got a proposal for a working group. So that means that we would also be able to start attending NACTA as well and start building our relationships there. So I've kind of got like 3 tracks that I'm pursuing for our organization. One's directly with the NCAA, and the soonest we could see, like the absolute soonest, it would be 2.5 years after I send this proposal in. That's about the average amount of time, and that's what it took to strengthen and conditioning coaches. So I'm not just going to settle there and let that work. I'm also working directly with NACTA. I'm working directly with some of these conferences. I'm targeting one conference right now, Big Ten. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to get our name out there. I'm trying to really push our organization, our professionalism, and make the lives better for all of us. I have to leave here at 12:30, so if I hate to hijack this, but if anybody has any feedback or thoughts or interest, once I am finalized with a proposal, I'll have that sent out to everybody so y'all can take a look at it. But things are moving forward. My presidency is already 1 year in. I only got 3 more left, so I'm really trying to maximize my time and the faith that you all put in me. Any questions? People have been emailing me concerns about it. What does this mean for people across the NCAA? If you're not certified, I highly suggest you start working on getting certified now. Get ahead of it. If you know someone that's not certified, or if you have anybody on your staff that's not certified, start getting them certified, because the choo-choo trains, it's in the depot. We're fueling it up. We're not ready to move yet, but everyone's working on it. So that would be my first suggestion. My second suggestion is do everything you can in your power, wherever you are in your community of athletic equipment managers, in your community of conference, no matter what level you are. Talk about the AEMA whenever you get the opportunity. Talk about certification. And, because I need 800 people selling, not just one. That makes sense. And I'll start with a 79 on this call. And, that's all I can ask for. Anybody got anything? Don't be shy. Do you have any concerns or anything that you think that would be helpful in this presentation? I'm talking about athlete safety, equipment management as an administration protocols. There's a couple of reasons that I'm also hitting up NACTA. My goal is for next year to present at NACTA, and like the headline of the workshop would be the benefits of hiring a certified equipment manager in your space. So I'm hitting all the fronts. Let's see what else we got here. Rules and regulation, academic and professional development, also for student athletes that might want a career in athletic equipment management. So I'm really hitting up everything I can think of. All right, that's all I got for you then.
Awesome. Thanks, Melly. All right, so with today's topic, we've got a pretty good panel put together, some great questions. As per usual, if you do have questions, if you have topics, things you want to discuss on today, feel free to drop them in the comments after we get through most of it. I'll start reviewing those and plug those in. But without further ado, we have Quinn Patterson from Trinity. Dan Displains, I probably was going to say that wrong, but from the Dalbarton School, and Will Roquette from Kansas State University joining us on the panel. So thanks, gentlemen, for joining in today. And as we usually do to kind of get started, really kind of, before we jump in the first question, kind of introduce yourself, kind of your history and background, and tell us kind of what you love most about being an equipment manager. Quinn, if you want to go first.
I was going to say, you want to start with me? You guys have already heard my voice. My name is Quinn Patterson. I'm here at Trinity University in Texas. We're a D3 school. I've been here 9 years now. Been certified since, I believe, 17. Yeah, 17. Been, kind of going through it ever since. But, again, we're a pretty small school. I handle all 18 sports and operate out of one equipment room. So obviously storage is a very hotbed topic for us and how we like to manage that. So.
Awesome. Dan, would you go ahead and introduce yourself? I think you're muted, Dan. Dan, you're muted. Dan, you hear us?
There you go. Got me now? Hey, it's a miracle. Sorry.
Very good.
It's summer, right? Can I at least give it up to summer?
Absolutely.
No, Dan Desplaines, Morristown, New Jersey, Joe Barton School. My position started 5 years ago with equipment. Our school started a position within the athletic department, and they wanted to have inventory control and have somebody be in charge of purchasing and things of that nature. And, you know, Cliff is one of my friends, one of my close friends, and he said, why don't you push certification? You know, tell them you're going to outfit every football player in the school with helmets, shoulder pads, and everything like that, and, you know, sell that to them. And it worked. Now I'm assistant director of athletics. What do I enjoy about it? I guess it's a lot of everything, you know, being around the kids. We teach as well at our school. So this isn't the only job that I have. And if anybody's been in a high school, you know, you wear 18 different hats, and I'm sure, you know, equipment managers do as well, you know, so it kind of all rolls into one, you know, designing graphics, new merchandise, fitting every kid and making sure that, you know, he's good to go. So there's a lot of things that factor into that. But I enjoy it. You know, I got into it again 5 years ago, so I guess I'm pretty new, but it's a lot of fun going to the conventions, networking, things of that nature. So I've enjoyed it so far and hope to keep doing it moving forward.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Will, would you do a little introduction?
Will Roadcap, this is my 11th or 12th year back at Kansas State. Started in this a long time ago, 1988, due to an injury at JUCO from football. Transferred to Kansas State in 1990, finished my undergrad here, hung around as a GA till 95. Was the first full-time hire at Tulsa for 3 years, Colorado State for 7. Took a little break, do some family issues, and then Larry Hare sucked me back into this, and now I'm here. And I think the thing that I like about it, after being in the real world, so to speak, is there's no other job like it in the nation. And when you try to explain it to people, they still really don't get it. So it's just kind of its own organism, so to speak. So it's something new every day.
Thanks, Will.
Yep.
All right, so let's jump into the questions. As far as storage is concerned, what is your system? How does inventory levels play into the storage, and how long do things stay on the shelves? And everyone's going to have a unique answer because we've got 3 different, very, very different organizations. So Quinn, we'll start to you, go to Dan, and then go to Will, and we'll work our way back on the next one. So go ahead, Quinn.
Yeah. So like I said, I cover all 18 sports here. And we have obviously different situations. Like, so most of our uniforms, we like to hang as much as we can. If not, they're stored in, you know, plastic tubs. So that way we can, you know, not allow mildew, mold, stuff like that to build up. And then we have just shelving units. My biggest push, and we'll touch base on it later, is working with my administration for the longest time, try to get, you know, high density storage in our equipment room. If we're developing plans for an auxiliary equipment room, we've been trying to work on that. But so for right now, we just have a kind of a lock and key cage, which I have a key to, and we lock up everything to make sure that everything's secure. As far as things staying on shelves, it's kind of tricky at our level because obviously we have to reuse things year to year. And then when we try to cycle things out, some of the coaches like to keep that stuff around, obviously, for, you know, senior awards, stuff like that. So we try to keep everything. Uniforms are kind of within a 3 to 4 year cycle. And then from there, we kind of try to give it to the next cycle. So maybe another 3 years. So it is a little bit tricky balancing having everything on the shelf that's one cycle past and then current that way. But it, again, doubles your storage, you know, needs and stuff like that. So moving, you know, trying to figure out, working with the coaches and saying like, hey, do you really still need something like this anymore? Is it something we can, you know, donate to, you know, clean out or stuff like that, or, you know, can find resources for them. A lot of our stuff, you know, we'll kind of trickle like old football pants down to game pants, down to practice pants, and then kind of get rid of the old stuff. So there's kind of a check and balance at our level that we can kind of recycle some old things, kind of do stuff. But when it comes to keeping things on shelves, I would say it's kind of 2 cycles worth. So, for us, it's our 3 to 4 years of our current uniform set, and then trying to keep only 3 to 4 years beyond that. So we try to get rid of stuff in a relatively routine fashion.
Awesome. Dan, would you chime in on how that works for you?
Will do. Well, I'm sitting in our new field house. Up until I've been here 15 years now, up until this past March, we had various spots on campus, whether that be like upstairs in the gymnasium, in the dugouts of the baseball field where there's storage. It kind of was whatever sport had their own area. And then when we finally got this building going a few years ago, there wasn't plans for an equipment room, and we fought for that. And as you can see behind me now, we've got everything is now located in one spot. There's only about 7 people on campus that have a key to this room. So you would have to contact one of those to get in here. And our headmaster, he was banging the pulpit of, we have to have inventory control. Football got new uniforms this year. We now have laundry for that in here, just over, to my left. So uniforms don't need to go home. Helmets aren't going home. We're keeping as much stuff in here as we can. And, so far it's worked out really well. In these other storage areas that we had stuff, we have like what we call the M key, and everybody had a key. And our thing was, well, if everyone has a key, then no one has a key. What's the point of everyone having a key? So now only 7 people are having it. Coaches are having to get adjusted to that. We're like, well, what if I need to get in? I'm like, well, you need to be organized. You need to let one of us know when you need it, when you need your jerseys. Or, our lacrosse coach was like, well, we need a fresh, package of balls for every game. I'm like, no problem, Matt. I have your schedule. If I forget, tell me at noon that day, I'll go down and get them. So, it's taking some adjustment on a lot of our coaches' ends, but we have everything in one spot. And, again, it's all about inventory control.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Go ahead, Will.
We have about 13 departments we look after, and 13 sports, and then Al does football downstairs.
We got
a lot of ours is the daily flow of product, to be honest. We have Space Saver systems here in Veneer where I'm at. We house men's and women's golf, rowing, administration, tennis, and volleyball right now. We're getting ready to move into the VOT, which is a new volleyball arena. It's going to have Space Saver for tennis and volleyball. Al has a Space Saver system downstairs specific for football. We put a small Space Saver system, really small, in our basketball facility, a small one over in Bramlage for men's basketball where basketball is played. Baseball has one over in baseball, small storage facility, and soccer has one as well. So it's really been an evolution since I arrived back, as nobody really handled all the equipment here. It was all ops directors. So I overtook the Nike ordering, and then we had had to figure out how we were going to store all this. And to be honest, the first few years I ordered 16 to 12 bushel lockable storage hampers from Wayne. That's how I locked up a lot of the gear when it came in. And over in our visitors' locker room in football, that's how I had to lock it up underneath our lockers for a while. It was just the ebbs and flows and getting people to buy in. And we've slowly grown, we've slowly advanced. And all of it kind of depends on the flow, where it needs to go, how that sport. And thank goodness we've hired 2 more full-time people. We're being able to check that stuff in and out now. So it's been an evolution and a growing process. And I kind of got spoiled working for Larry over at Kansas because they've got a lot of nice Space Savers. And when I came here and started talking that language, I was looked at as like a foreigner. So it's been a battle, but we've slowly got to where we've got it secured in a Space Saver system, or we do use a lot of plastic tubs as well with foldable lids. And to be honest, I like to put those on the shelf sometimes too, because product doesn't slide off. But that's just me, how I like to do things.
Thanks, Will. I'll jump into the next question. We kind of touched on it a little bit, but who decides the storage is used for and for how long? So we'll come back to you, and we'll come back to Dan and Quinn after that. So talk about how the storage is used, kind of talk about kind of who has access to it, but how is it used? I know, Will, you started with it, I think a little bit of it with what you put on the shelves and that kind of thing. you could touch a little bit more in detail on that.
It's once again, it's kind of been an evolution of finally getting some full-time folks to take over the basketball, so to speak, where the ops directors don't have to worry about it anymore. And we can limit access to those items. We have more secure storage in Bramlage for men's and women's basketball. So we can keep an eye on those items so people don't dip into them, so to speak. Where over in the training facility, which is right by the basketball arena, there's a little bit more access into that we don't like. But then again, we just store items in there that aren't as great a value, so to speak, if that makes sense. So the flow of that sport's a little different. Men's and women's golf sees me once or twice a year. Rowing sees me maybe 3 times a year. Admin will come in down here. Everything's secured in our area. Al's constantly loading. He's loading up his bins right now, his issue bins for football to be ready. They issued stuff when all their newcomers arrive. So how long it's stored, when it's in use, and how it's used depends on the sport quite a bit of the time. Colin over in baseball, we're getting items in for him. We're helping them put logos on some things. Some of those things may stay in his cubbies and get issued not till spring. Some of it may get issued during fall ball. A lot of it is the ebb and flow of the sport, so to speak. So like my rowers will come in, they'll get a basic amount of stuff for the newcomers, then they'll get a little bit more, and they just kind of, issue it out as they earn it, so to speak. So you just got to be flexible. You got to figure out a way to put it. Luckily, I got more room to put things and just kind of roll with it on how long it sits or when it's used or how it's used, so to speak.
Awesome.
The other thing is we're having a garage sale, and we've discovered that there were 2 storage units in the city of Manhattan, and we've known about it. And we've talked to our administration about it, and we finally got those cleaned out and putting things to a sale. So we were a little uneasy about those things due from a compliance type issue. So, but thank goodness, another conversation, as you see on the schedule, is database and management. We've got a pretty good knowledge of where things are at if something does go down, but we've done a good job of cleaning it up and a little bit more honesty to what we've got in inventory, so to speak.
Awesome. Thanks, Will. Dan, would you share a little bit about how your storage is used?
It's really, we have a very wide spread out campus. The number of people that get lost on our campus happens every day if you haven't been here. So we have soccer and baseball fields aren't anywhere near where I am, near the football track, and lower level baseball fields for our, lower level freshman teams and things like that. Ultimately, it's my decision what gets stored where. Eventually everything will get stored down here at some point, but like soccer is kind of getting into their summer practices. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for them to bring everything down here right now, just to move it back up in August. And, the soccer coach is our dean of admissions. So he's like, yeah, we might as well just keep it up here for the time being. And then once the season's over, we'll bring everything down there. But it kind of gets back to what I said before with, the key that we had, everybody had to the storage areas everywhere. And, our track coach is like, hey, I had, 25 t-shirts, where'd they go? I only have 5 left. And so pretty much every coach is on board with keeping everything down here. And, like I said before, there's only about 7 people that have a key to it. And we just have to communicate. Everyone's got a lot of free time now in the summer, so they want to mosey around and see what's going on. But I have a good feeling that once the school year gets going and everyone gets into their routine, gets into their seasons, we'll figure it out. But again, it's a new building, so we're kind of figuring out the ebbs and flow of how things will happen, but I'm pretty confident that it'll be pretty good moving forward.
But I know real quick, Dan, since you're kind of the level where you got a lot of coaches coming and going, or maybe you don't, but I know in the high school level, a lot of coaches, are maybe shorter term than the college or pro guys. How are you handling kind of that conversation with new coaches and getting gear back from coaches maybe you don't see that often? I know you were trying to keep everything in facility, but how are you handling those conversations? Is that an administrator conversation, or are you having that yourself?
Well, technically that's what I am now with being assistant director of athletics. So for some, it's awkward because some that were my boss, I'm now their boss. So it's a little awkward now in the summertime. But, to be honest, we pretty much got every coach on board, and except for one that's kind of teetering a little bit and getting used to this new system. But we have a lot of coaches that have been here a long time, fortunately. I have actually had this conversation this morning. I think for a varsity coach, the youngest tenured one is like our swimming coach, who has been here 5 years now. We have a lot of coaches, and again, most of them, except for one, was pretty much on board because stuff was disappearing, and they didn't know where this went or went that went, or I thought I stored it here. And, I kept banging the drum saying, well, everyone has a key. So if everyone has a key, no one has a key. And, our headmaster did a phenomenal job of fundraising for this building. It's like, well, if we're spending all this money on uniforms and helmets and shoulder pads, like, these things should not grow legs and just walk away. And a uniform, coming back, well, why do we only have 24 sets instead of 25? So again, most every coach has been really good with this so far. So it's been, I guess, a smooth transition, not a lot of road bumps yet.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan.
Yep.
And Quinn, could you chime in for us?
Yeah, I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but ultimately, the decision's kind of made by a few people. Much like Dan, we're very fortunate that we only about 3 people have keys to the equipment room. Basically for the same reason. We don't want things growing legs and walking off, but ultimately it's a lot of communication with the coaches. Case in point, much like that with like the soccer balls, like we have, sheds out at our soccer field where they can store stuff like that. Obviously, or like once like the fall season ends and they're waiting till the spring, a lot of times they'll bring them back and store them until the spring season, and then vice versa until they have summer camps and stuff like that. But, we try to tell them like, hey, as much as you can keep into your own like individual storages, obviously, with, you don't want soccer balls going flat over the summer with temperature changes, stuff like that. So, with a controlled environment here, we can store things. So, but again, it's a lot of that communication of like, if there's something I'm seeing that's been sitting there for a while, it's like going to that coach and saying, hey, look, do you have any use for this anymore? Would you be fine with getting it? I think it boils down to the heavy communication aspect that, and they respect that this is still my space. This is where I operate out of. Like, as much as they don't want clutter in their own offices, I don't want clutter in my office, especially if it's a known storage space for all 18 sports. So it's just that level of communication and being able to, make decisions mutually about what's best for the group as a whole.
Perfect. Thanks, Quinn. All right, let's jump over the next question. What solutions have you used and when have you run into storage issues? I know we talked a little bit about high density stuff, space savers. Would love to hear back, just even on a shelf by shelf level. If I've been in 300 plus equipment rooms in my lifetime, I've seen people use boxes and nets and all kinds of different stuff. But share even at the granular level what you're using to make sure things in bags don't slip off the shelves when you move shelves around. So Quinn, we'll start out with you and we'll work our way back to Dan and Will.
Yeah. Like a lot, Will said that we've always kind of used the bins, tubs with, clear tubs. That way you can see what's in them. We label them all, with sizes or whatever that item might be. And then once we're actually, the way we have it broken up, we kind of have it broken up by season. So like one shelf area is like football, obviously, and then you move like soccer's, you move, and then you progress through the season. So that way, we know what season we're in, we can go right to that area. And kind of know exactly what we're looking for. Again, I think it's all depends on how much space you have, what resources you have. Again, working for us, not having, high density storage, space saver, stuff like that. We have to use a lot of those, we have just standard shelving that, we just, again, keep the bins in, label everything, have labels on the outsides, have labels on the shelves themselves just to help organize everything and go from there. When we have run into storage issues, obviously we have an auxiliary, like kind of back area, as we call it, where more of our like, we keep our bags and stuff like that. And if we have to, we can move stuff to that area to clean out for new stuff coming in. But most of the stuff that we keep stored in the cage area, as we call it, is mostly uniforms and stuff we use year to year. The stuff that is obviously distributed, for practices and stuff that the athletes will keep, we'll kind of just keep organized in, our box forts, and then distribute them to the locker rooms when see fit for the seasons.
How are real quick, Quinn, and I guess this is for everyone as we go through. How are you labeling everything? How do you use tags, or are you just putting tape down, or what are you using to label everything so you know where it's at?
It's kind of a mix. Again, like, so for We've done everything from actual having label makers to just good old fashioned like blue painter's tape and Sharpie. I think it's kind of whatever you see fit, and as long as your system fits what your needs are and it's clean and concise. So again, like for the shelves, we have it organized where even on like the post of the shelf, we have, fall sports this way, you know what I mean? Like, and so it's like, even if someone's new, you can say, hey, look, it's the fall, it goes this, and you can kind of have it all organized. But then again, the bit outside the bins are labeled. They'll say, women's basketball, maroon uniform set, like, you know what I mean? Kind of stuff like that. And again, mix of whether it's a label maker, so it's a little more clean and concise. If it's stuff that you're just trying to do in a hurry, a good old fashioned painter's tape and Sharpie never does anybody wrong. So affordable, it's easy. So, I mean, it's just kind of whatever system works for you, but that's how we do it here.
Yeah. Well, it's important. You can have all the fancy shelves in the world, but you can't find anything that doesn't help. So awesome. Thanks, Quinn. Dan, would you go ahead and chime in on your solutions? I know you can see some of them behind you.
Yeah, we're starting to get that trickle it in. I mean, like Quinn says painter's tape, that's over my shoulder right now because I didn't want to label the sheet that's in that plastic thing yet. But like our vendor came and is like, hey, we'll do it, free of charge. They're going to label it with like our school font and kind of dress it up nice. We're going to have magnets put on each one just to kind of give it a little flair. I mean, it's just a green storage units behind me, but each one will have like baseball with bats crossing, and football will have a helmet and things like that. And then we even have bins on the bottom of them, so that that stores all our knee pads and mouthpieces and stuff like that. But obviously football takes up a huge chunk of the space behind me, and they have the most equipment. So I'm even getting magnets made out just so you don't have to keep searching through it. Like mouthpieces, boom, that's on that one, and knee pads is on the other. But we still use the bins. I mean, we had bins like if you can imagine, if we had storage spaces all over campus, we had clear bins of t-shirts, uniforms, and whatnot, and like, oh, we're going to throw them away. I'm like, no, why not? We can still use them because the football lacrosse locker room that's across the hall from me, if I need to give out knee pads, I'll just store them all there, drag them over. The bins have wheels, and then just easily put 2 in each locker room, no problem, instead of having 100 football players just come trekking through here. So it's a mix and match, and I think kind of echoing what Quinn said, you see what works for you. Again, it's a new facility, so we're still trying to figure it out. We are spoiled that we have this and we have a lot of room. And, I remember 2 months ago, the headmaster was like, oh, summer camp's going to use your facility. I'm like, oh, okay. That wasn't in the plans, but thankfully, like, soccer's not all in here yet. And so I told the summer camp director, obviously we're high school, so we have summer camps, and like, you can have that space right now. And he's like, well, that's soccer. I'm like, we'll figure it out. Soccer's not 100% in here yet. So we do have space to figure it out. And like Quinn said, if we ever, they have extra space too. We still have the old space that we have in the gymnasium, and that's going to be there for another 5-6 years. We can still use it. But yesterday I was up there cleaning it out, and there's just, cleaning hockey socks that have been in there for 10 years. And I joked I found Jimmy Hoffa up there, the amount of stuff that we threw away. But, we have space, and, thankfully our athletic director, our outgoing athletic director kept saying in the building, when this building was being built, you can't have enough storage space. So we're very fortunate.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Will, would you chime in there?
Touch on the labeling real quick, then go into the solutions. We use a combination of cardstock and just Sharpies. Like I'm looking up right now, it says the color code, rowing leggings. There's extra small and small above the rowing bins. Then we'll use label makers on the shelving and on the pull-out drawers as well. And then as far as identifying, I'm lucky I've got a CAD cutter that I don't only use for heat transfer vinyl. I can also make decals. I'm looking up at a roll down, and it's got our Big 12 conference logo. It says K-State Women's Golf. So it keeps things flowing into the right locations of wherever the sport is. That's how we kind of do labeling. Solutions have we used? We're fortunate enough that football is very successful here. And I'm looking outside my back window right now. We have 2 53-foot trailers. One was the old trailer that they've switched to just a hotel use. So if we go to a bowl game, only stuff that goes to the hotel's in that trailer. So Al's primary travel trailer is docked outside my window as well. and his crew and his staff does an excellent job of putting things in there more towards game. And then the hotel trailer, anything that he's going to issue for spring ball or next summer stays in the Nike boxes. They check it in and they put it out in that trailer. So we are blessed that we have that. We're also blessed that we can check stuff in for men's and women's basketball, track, and volleyball. We can take it over to what's called the media room for the visiting team locker room. It's post-game, just a big square area. And Nick, who does men's basketball, McKay that does women's basketball, and Nick that does volleyball can sort all their stuff, know where it's at, store it over there. Then whenever basketball wants it, obviously we got to get it out there by the first game, but some of our solutions have been use other areas that we can secure. We flip the locks on the back side of that media storage room where only we can get in there. And then we limit the fob access just to the equipment room staff and the summer student staff. So we're blessed that we went from hardly any storage to now we've got areas we can put things in corners, so to speak. And once again, that just goes back to the flow and the timing of whenever that sport needs it or how long we can store it in that area till we move it on to the next location. So that's some ways we've gotten creative over the years and what we're doing this summer.
Cool. Thanks, Will. Next question. How do you approach the administration about any upgrades? Dan, I know you'll have a lot of feedback on this. I'm sure everyone's always trying at least, and needs to improve your storage system. So really just having that conversation. I think obviously the big one is ROI and things that disappear are big parts of the conversation. Will, I know you've had the conversation over the years, so we'll start with you. As you've transformed things in your space, how have you talked to administration, got approval, and convinced those folks that you needed to do something different?
A couple of years ago, we were going into the VOT, the Volleyball Olympic Training Center design, and I finally just had to sit down with two senior administrators who I respected and trusted, and I said, we built a BTF, we minimized our storage there, we just have a closet. You know, we built football, we've run out of room downstairs, and I've run out of room upstairs. And I said, I've reached out to our senior administration a couple of times and emailed them like, when are we going to sit down and talk about the design in there? Long story short, I finally had to have a heart-to-heart, and I didn't want to have to say this, but I said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, and it's just not working. And I'd let them know I was frustrated. I'd let them know, you know, what are we going to do with this stuff? And finally, after having that difficult conversation and sticking up for myself, it helped. And we got some storage over in the VOT. Originally, it was slated to be an all-inclusive equipment room, but obviously with budget and building and the times we're in, it just got squeezed down to volleyball and tennis. And it's going to be really nice, but you just got to learn how to pick and choose your battles, when to stand up, who you can trust. And it's been a constant battle to fight for more space, but we're finally getting there. It's just, you know, also, you know, talk about the difficult things that do happen. And you've talked about too, we've had some items that have come up missing over in basketball, and it's because codes were given out to people that weren't supposed to have them. We've documented that, we move forward. And I think people finally do understand. And our athletic director has said, you will check things in and out, and we will at least have a solution if something does go wrong. So getting the right people, having the right people to back you, and then, you know, professionally standing up for yourself and fighting for what you need.
Awesome. Thanks, Will. And Dan, would you go ahead and share a little bit on this topic? I know you've touched on it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, when I started this 5 years ago, before we had this beautiful facility, you know, we had this one area and it was just a mess. It was just a colossal, you know, just stuff everywhere, and try to ask, you know, how can we better utilize this space? And, you know, football had the same size storage area as like cross country, which doesn't make any sense given the equipment and everything. Nothing against cross country, but it's just football takes up more area. And they're like, we have all this wall space, you know, can we use that for something? Can we put, you know, just like wood pan, you know, big wooden beam and just, you know, pegs coming out that we could, you know, put the helmets on. And we have a good maintenance crew here, and, you know, they have a wood shop, and they were very accommodating and helping us out. So that alleviated a lot of the problems then. A lot of it for us is just having conversations with the coaches. You know, we're in a service industry. It's like, well, how can we help you better take care of all your equipment needs? And then obviously this building was built, and what was great about the company that did the storage behind us is like, give us worst case scenario. If everything is going to be stored away, what is it? And I went to every single coach. I'm like, give me a list. You just give me flat out what it is. I mean, I knew what football was, but it's like everything, if you're going to store it away, what's going to be in there? And we gave that list, and the company did the Tetris game, as I call it. And, you know, is it ever going to be 100% max? No. I gave you the example of, you know, like summer camp being moved in. Well, soccer's not in here yet, so we can accommodate it that way. So it was basically going to the coaches and saying, what do you need? You know, and we're going to make this thing work.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Quinn, would you wrap us up with this one?
Yeah. So as I kind of touched on it earlier, that this is the big one for me, because this is what I'm currently in the process of doing. And I'm fortunate enough to have an administration who does understand the need for it and pushing for it on their end as well. It's obviously boils down to, you know, the university and their decisions as far as what to do with capital projects, stuff like that, where we can find the funding for it. So we've continuously put it into our capital campaign. The biggest thing that kind of helped really advocate it really early on was, you know, just kind of like Will said, having heart to hearts with, you know, your administration, being like, oh, this is why we need these things, and being honest with them. And then even so, bringing them down here and showing them like, this is our space. This is what I'm working with. You can see how tight it is on your own, and you're not the one who's working day to day on it. And so it's like kind of getting them to, you know, in terms, get down into the trenches and really see how it's going. It kind of, you know, speaks to them on the personal level and understands that then they're going to go fight for you. And that was a big key early on when I was pushing for it, was getting them to come down, you know, and really get in there and see like, oh crap, it's really tight, or it's really like you need more storage. And then again, much like Dan said, when we've met with, you know, Space Saver and getting quoted out and stuff like this, we gave them the full, you know, if everything was full, how much space would you need, and just breaking down every little aspect of it. And then also understanding that if we ever, you know, had future plans of getting another field house for football or something, how much this space would divvy out then once, you know, football built their own, you know, storage and equipment room over in their facility. So it's kind of just, again, like just really having all your facts in front of you, going out, getting the quotes, getting, you know, the information ahead of time, and really sitting down and having honest conversations with the administration, being like, this is what it's going to take. This is how much money, this is the time. Like, you know, it's anything in life. If you go in heavy with all your stuff ready for a presentation, it speaks better that you've done your research. You know what you're talking about, you know what you're looking for, and hopefully it speaks to them to try to push that needle as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Quinn. I think the recap, that one is prepare and get people to buy into what you are. And I know that means sometimes inviting people into your space when you're trying to protect it at the same time. But yeah, I think putting together the numbers and getting everyone buy-in is a big win there. So great advice, guys. Thanks for chiming in there. Last question before we kind of move on. Any advice you would like to give on what you have found works for you? So kind of the last bit, you know, if you're going to give, someone comes up to you, is like, hey, tell me about the best way to store my stuff. What's the biggest piece of advice you can hand anybody that comes up and asks you that question? We'll start with you, Quinn.
Yeah. I twofold for me. Like one, obviously I think everything, you know, you can't reiterate it enough, especially in our field. It always comes down to communication and building those relationships with coaches, administration, whoever. You know, we're all kind of human. And I think if you kind of get them out of the realm of like sports and competition, like touching on that human side, it usually helps get you to where you need to be. And they're usually receptive and want to help you back as you're trying to help them. And then twofold, like the second part, just advice I can give is, you know, obviously find your systems that work for you and do that. But obviously the main goal is obviously protect the, you know, the equipment, the uniforms, whatever it may be, as best possible. So, you know, do your research into those solutions. Like, you know, again, we use the plastic tubs because obviously we want to eliminate, you know, water getting in and mildew and stuff building up or degrading of the material, stuff like that. You know, so whatever solutions you can find to protect the equipment and give it the longevity as best as possible, especially if you're, you know, a smaller group like myself, where you got to keep things for 3 to 4 years because that's how you need it because, financially or whatever it may be. So those are kind of the two tidbits I want to give.
Thanks, Quinn. Dan, would you chime in for us?
Yeah, I think what I'll say is kind of a summation of what the three of us has said is, don't fit a square peg into a round hole. Like, what do you have to work with right now? Like, how can you make it best right now? I use the example of the old area we had, and we started putting, wooden pegs on the wall to fit the helmets, and so you start coming out with good ideas, you start proving your own worth, they'll start listening to you, understanding, and, seeing how valuable you are as an employee at your institution. But start with what you have, build that up, and then you can start asking for some certain things. As Will was saying before, you start asking, you advocate for yourself, and they'll see how valuable of an employee you are. But also what Quinn says is you have a relationship with coaches. There's certain coaches I'm not going to give my key to get something out of here, and there's guys I trust with my own children. But so it's kind of a combination of everything in here, and I think that's kind of the purpose of what this is. We're all sharing ideas, and we all figure it out eventually.
Awesome. Will, would you finish it up?
I guess each place I've been has been different, and it depended on what drove the machine, so to speak. Ironically, crazy enough, my first full-time job when I went to Tulsa, my revenue sports were men's basketball, women's golf, then football. But that's just the nature of living in Tulsa back then and how it was. So I had better storage for my men's and women's golf items than I did football. And then finally, when we evolved into the football aspect and renovated some, I had to explain and educate people that in the winter, they tried to turn the temperature down. And I said, these helmets can't freeze. So my advice for you or anybody would be, if you know that your ice hockey, stand up for what you need, why you need it, not only for storage, but for the longevity of the equipment. If you're baseball and, this is maybe on the pro level, you need a humidor to store the baseballs in. You need a humidor. That's out of your control, but there's, things that you can use to your advantage professionally, make those statements of why you need it, then show them and get in that process early and stay on those people positively. Then when you get to that point, when they try to shut you out, be like, now that we have this problem, and if it's affecting the equipment, it's affecting the safety, we don't want to get into that, so to speak. So you got to be tactful. You got to use your politics a little bit, and you got to, understand your care for whatever your cash revenue sport is at your institution, so to speak. I hope that makes sense.
Thanks, Will. All right. Just thank you, the three of you, for chiming in and helping out. Really appreciate a lot of the feedback. Hopefully everyone found some good information, good nuggets out of that. Just before we close up here, we do want to make sure we mention the mentor-mentee program. If you are interested, especially after convention, this is a great time that you kind of see the needs, and those of you who've been to a bunch of conventions can be very helpful for some young equipment managers. I know we saw a bunch of them come across our booth, so lots of folks out there looking for both sides of this program. So if you're interested in joining, make sure you hit up the email address there at the bottom, and we can get information out to you. You can connect. Katie's running point on that and has been doing a great job there. So, and lastly, just make sure you get your phones out. It's my favorite time of the call. I see everyone taking pictures of the call, but make sure you get your QR code, get it scanned, get credit for being on these. It's a pleasure to run these, and we look forward to seeing you guys in a few weeks when we talk about inventory systems and kind of the next step of the inventory solution situation. So appreciate you all, and have a great couple weeks, and we'll talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.